Welcome, friends. We got our other friend here. We got Dev. We're going to be talking about some underrated cards and whether we were right or wrong about some of the stuff from Avatar, because we always try to take a shot and try to point out some things that might be, well, let's say not as well hyped, that might be a bit overutilized or not later on. We
And there
were
was
sometimes we're right, sometimes we're wrong.
Yep. There's a lot of hype for Avatar too. There was so much hype. So it was kind of tough to find underrated stuff. But at the end of the day, looking at all of our picks here just in advance, I think we did pretty good this time around. Sometimes it's really tempting to pick like 30 cents cards that aren't doing super well. And often when you do that, they don't do anything. But this time around, I think we did better than we typically do. Let me put it that, especially you. I think you had some good picks on this.
We've been doing pretty well though the last few sets. We've gotten good at this.
Yeah, I think we're better at this than we were when we started. I really do. But
yeah, also, hey, if you haven't yet, you should probably go subscribe to Dev. I would assume by now, if you're a regular, you have. If you're not, you're using YouTube wrong. Go over there and subscribe. And do the same here. Click all the things that make the dings, all the fun stuff. You know what that's about. But yeah. And, I guess hype the video now is the thing, because
that's a thing you can do. Yeah.
I don't know. I still literally don't have the hype option on any of my stuff, mobile.
Neither do I.
Like I've seen the thing where it says some of my videos have some number of hype points. So like a thing happens, but like, I don't know.
It's like my thought is that it might be a YouTube premium thing. I have no clue. I really don't know.
Because I have YouTube premium.
Well, I don't know.
Not a thing.
I do not have. I'm a YouTuber that does not have YouTube premium.
Dude, it's so good. We'll talk about it off the air. There's so many reasons.
The people are here to talk about Magic. Let's do that.
Yeah. Speaking of, there's a bunch of people want to hear us talk about other things not Magic that they still harass us about. So I gotta get you involved on some of that stuff sometime soon.
There's a lot to talk about in those realms as well.
But yeah, what people don't know is we talked for an hour and a half about a whole bunch of stuff. Like
we talked about wrestling and basketball for an hour and a half just now.
I should have hit record. People would have paid good money for that, I'm sure.
For all of that. If you wanted our opinions on like LeBron versus Jordan, we got them all out. So I'm sorry you missed that. Anyway.
All right. So let's get back on track here. Let's talk about these underrated cards and where we started last time, buddy, because this was a kind of a big one.
Yeah, it was. I think. Well, do you want me to go ahead and?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, I think my first pick this time around was Ozai Phoenix King, which is done Zilcho in Standard, but I will say this has been a reasonably one of the more popular commanders from the set, and I believe it's held some value as well. Could be mistaken, but I think the card's still a few bucks. So I can't say that I missed completely, but I did in Standard. As far as Standard goes, I missed horribly. This did not update the Reanimator decks like I thought it might or anything like that. It has not been a force there. So if we're mostly talking about Standard, miss. I'll admit it, miss.
Yeah, I'll say this. It was a one of in a few decks I saw. I saw a few things trying it, some firebending stuff.
Yeah.
Some things with there was some mono red decks splashing black that were playing it. So, it had some uses. But I think to your point, especially as a commander card, one of the things we see is a lot of these cards tend to fall off price-wise. And this is a case where the price basically stayed the same the whole time.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, I don't think this has dipped very much.
No, it's still in the $6-7 range where
that's how much it was.
Thought it would have been, and it stayed there, which means that some number of commander players are still trending toward this card. So the price has stayed stable. And
go ahead. Sorry.
And I think that's one of those things, right? You expect it to have a fall off, but it really didn't. And whether that's as a commander or just in the 99.
Yeah, this is one of those that I've seen multiple people on Twitter. I say multiple, probably 3 people on Twitter talk about how good or fun of a commander this is post-release. So I know it's getting some buzz in there. And I guess like we've already pointed out, it wouldn't be the same price if it weren't getting some commander play. So like I said, no victory lap on this one, but I think if you go back and watch it, I say I think this is probably mostly a commander card. But all the things that I predicted, it goes in Reanimator decks in Standard, I got to take a shot on that one. I was wrong. So all things considered, Ozai Phoenix King has had a fun little trajectory since it came out, but I wouldn't expect it to see too much play in Standard from now on, like I did maybe 2 months ago. So
yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
But your first pick, actually, I think you could make an argument for. I think you could.
Well, I will say this first off. It saw about as much play as I thought it would see.
Right,
so
yeah.
We're not super surprised by it, but we're talking about Secret Tunnel. It's a cave. The lane can't be blocked. You can tap it for a colorless mana. Uh, and you can pay 4 and tap it and make 2 target creatures that share a creature type unblockable for the turn. Now, I will say this for the card. It's, again, about what we expected it to be. Nothing super crazy. Shows up as kind of a thing in some of the earthbending decks. So you
Yeah.
can have a land that's unblockable and whatever. It sort of does what we thought. However, knowing that we're going into Lorwyn, and there's going to be changelings, and people are going to play a lot of these theme decks, whether it's like Kithkin or Elementals or Elves or whatever, it is possible this card gets a little bit of a second life.
There
And
are a number.
it's
Go
cheap
ahead.
to pick up. That's the other thing. Like if you wanted these, they're like $2 or $3 right now
That's
if you
not
wanted to
bad.
play with them. So yeah,
I imagine.
there's a real chance here. But as far as current standard, definitely wasn't a super splash card. It kind of just showed up where we expected. So I'm gonna go ahead and take an L on this one because it didn't exceed anybody's hype. It sort of was just
Well,
like exactly what we thought it to be. But we'll see what happens with Lorwyn.
that's very noble of you. I'll give you at least more points than I got on Ozai. I mean, this shows up obviously in the Tifa decks, mostly just because it's a fetch land. However, if you do have like 2 Saz's Chocobos on the table, like this can technically make them both unblockable. And so like, there are lines that I've seen this within, like you said, the earthbending decks from time to time you see it, but I mostly see it in those Tifa decks. And I think that it's made an impact, enough of an impact in those decks.
Sure.
And I'll give you like a little bit of a hit on this one. And just like Ozai, this one too has kept most of its value. Because I don't think it was going for that expensive. I think
No,
at the
it was
very
like
beginning of
4.
pre-release it was.
Yeah,
Yeah.
when it first got previewed, sure. But by the time we
Yeah.
talked about it, I think it was hitting the $4 to $5 range. So it's come down
Right.
like a
So
dollar 50.
it hasn't
Yeah.
lost like too much value. And I do think that a lot of that value is Commander. I think that Commander players are always going to love this card.
Yeah,
So
if you're
yeah, I
playing a
think you
theme
I
deck for sure.
like I wouldn't say it's a no. Personally. I mean, if it were my pick, I wouldn't be like dancing in the streets like best card in standard. But like I don't know, I'll give you some credit on it. I
Well,
will. I think Secret Tunnel's fine.
we'll give it a mid.
There
We
you
won't
go.
give it a thumbs up or a thumbs down. It's just
Just
mid.
right in here, yeah.
But I do think, like I said, with Lorwyn, we know it's based around creature types and everything else.
Yes.
Like
Yes.
there is a real world where you might play one of these in your creature themed decks just to get a late game hit in for like 6 or 8 and finish the game off.
Yeah, I think that's the most important point to kind of say about these is that we'll have a lot more, kindred stuff once Lorwyn actually comes out. So yeah, could experience a second life, especially considering I think a lot of these like merfolk, some of the fairies, some of the elementals, some of them care about dealing combat damage before they trigger, which Secret Tunnel will be really good with. So yeah, I think it's fine. I think it's a better pick than a lot of mine. I'll say that much.
That's all right. We still got a long way to go. So what'd you
Yeah.
have for your number 4 to remind people about?
Well, my number 4 was Ty Lee Chi Blocker, which has not done much. I have seen it as a one of in a Demir list here or there, but it never really caught on. This is one of those I would see towards the beginning of the season, people trying it out, red shirting it. But it did not ultimately make the team in these Demir decks. So I can't even really give myself much credit for that. A card will see tryouts every now and again, but I actually think it's worse for my point if a card sees the tryouts and doesn't make the team. You know what I mean? Like the card was
Yeah.
obviously not good enough. So I got to take the L on this one. And for what it's worth, I think there's a better card than this in Lorwyn Eclipse called Disruptor of Currents that has Convoke and it comes down and it bounces something. This just taps something down. I thought maybe this will be Flood Pitch Drowner 2.0. But it turns out when you have a 2-mana version of this card, you just play that. Why spend an extra 50% of mana to do the same thing? Just play Flood Pitch Drowner. So
Yeah. I think that's the other thing too, right? When we miss, the conversation is why did it miss? And
yeah,
I think that's the case here where you're talking about it. I guess when we have a Flood Pitch Drowner, you also get the option on Drowner to get rid of the card,
yep. Don't have
right?
that on this lady.
Whereas here you do get prowess, and that's cool. But I would think if this card, instead of having prowess, had been like you put a +1/+1 counter on it when you play a non-creature spell, right?
Oh yeah,
That
yeah.
would have helped.
Been crazy.
Or what people don't realize is this doesn't even put a stun counter. It just says just doesn't on tap,
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And there's some things that care about your opponent stuff having counters on them or whatever, it's particularly about stun counters. So, and this doesn't do any of those things. So it's kind of worded in a weird way to just have just enough where you don't. Hell, even if this had been a 2/2 or a 2/3, with that ability. Then you could kind of justify it over having a 2/1 Drowner in
The
some cases,
2/1, yeah.
but it's kind of like Drowner, but a little bit worse,
In some ways.
you know?
Like, I figured it would just have, like, some redundancy with Drowner, but
Yeah.
a lot of
Yeah.
decks, stop playing the 4-up Drowner even. And you're right. Little edge things, I think people are gonna hear like, "Oh, it doesn't put stun counters, it just taps them and they don't untap or whatever." People are gonna think that those aren't worth like, that's not worth anything, but, like, little edge cases like that mean the world. Like, this would work well with Flood Pitch Drowner if it actually put a stun counter on something, because then Flood Pitch Drowner could shuffle the thing back into its owner's library. So, like, the little ways in which this doesn't work with other cards in the format is kind of a big deal. So, I thought, and this is a lesson I think I need to learn going forward, is that I thought maybe you get a turn where your opponent swings or your opponent announces their intention to attack at least. So you pop this in, tap down one of their guys, and you got a blocker. You have open mana, so you're threatening prowess triggers, and like your opponent's they're not going to swing into that. Or you get a turn where like you do block with it, you do play 2 instants, opt, prowess. The problem is that costs like 5 mana. And I just I think like a lot of decks aren't going to have the mana, especially in the early to mid game, to do the best plays that a card is capable of. And in standard right now, we're in a pretty fast format where, are you gonna Ty Lee Chi blocker plus 2 ops and a boomerang style effect into the Flood Maw all in the same turn? Do you have 6 mana, big boy? It's not as realistic as it might kind of
I
seem to you.
I think even
Right?
beyond that though, the decks that could have played this just never went down that road. Right? Like the Simic aggro decks became about Badger Moles and Ouroboros.
Yep.
Right?
Yep.
The Dimir mid-range decks became about flashing in Kaito
Kaito,
and
Enduring Curiosity.
yeah, exactly. Like they're just not, this isn't the space those decks are trying to play in, right?
Yeah.
So even if this card I think ended up could have checked the right boxes, it just may not have had a home.
It's like Dimir still seems right. I read the card now and I'm still thinking like, you can't, like, Kaito can't be your only 3-drop in Dimir, and like it's still playing at instant speed like the deck wants to play. It's tempo-y like the deck is, So I still look at him like, how did you not make it? But
But
I guess the
again,
card quality is so high elsewhere in the deck that
that's
you
exactly
know,
it, right? They're spending so much time. Okay, I'm going to leave this mana up to nowhere to run you or something or whatever.
yeah.
And like, there's just other stuff going on that you're like, all right, I could pay 3 mana for a 2/1 that sometimes is going to hit for 3 because they're not often going to be playing two spells in a turn, right? So it's like, it just doesn't check the boxes
Hey,
that we need.
that's another thing. Just before we get off this card, one more thing I think that like I might need to personally learn moving forward is that it used to be, for 15 years, it used to be that a good mid-range creature usually had a decent enter the battlefield trigger and a lower power toughness. Its casting cost would be higher than it should be because it's got a good ETB trigger. So you're looking at like 3 mana 1/2s with an ETB trigger that do something cool. Those used to be playable cards. I think more and more nowadays, a creature still has to have the proper stat line. In order to actually see play. Like if you have a 3 mana 2/2 that has a cool ETB trigger, it has to be an insanely good ETB trigger. What you're actually looking for in 2026 is a 3 mana 3/4 with a really good ETB trigger. So
Actually, I think I could break it down simpler than that. Like, would you rather play this or Mana War?
this,
See, I'd
right?
probably rather play Mana War.
Well, is Tylee just creatures? It's just creatures. Mana War is
Mana War is
it's
also just
creatures,
creatures.
but
Yeah.
one bounces and I guess the one taps.
Yep.
I
But
would
removing it
rather
from the
play the flash
battlefield.
creature. I still think I'd rather play the flash
See,
creature.
I'd rather have a Mana War. Just
Yeah, with
the
Mana War, you make them respend the mana, which is like the
Yep.
best part of Mana War.
Yep.
So I get that, and I guess to your point, when we're saying which is better, this card or a card from 25 years ago, that isn't named Ancestral Recall or whatever, you know what I mean? That
To be
isn't named
fair,
Mox something.
to your point, we probably still wouldn't play Mana War.
Not in
because
today's, yeah.
because of the quality of the
Um,
cards in the Dimir deck. We're
yeah,
probably
I mean, there's
not
literally
playing it.
there's a
Yeah.
draft common in Lore when Eclipsed. It's like a 3/2 elemental for 3 mana and literally is Mana War. It has the exact same line of text. That card is a crappy draft common nowadays. And so like I guess that kind of means that we're comparing Ty Lee to a crappy draft common, which means she's not in the best.
Yeah.
I tend to value Flash like a lot. Like I love Flash, And maybe like I said, I'm overvaluing. Like I
Flash
just
is
think
still
nowadays,
good. Still good.
I think nowadays a card has to be like overstated, undercosted, and do something good to like actually see play. People forget how amazing cards have to be to see play, like some of the time. But anyway, that's a lot on Ty Lee. I've learned multiple lessons on this one card. Hopefully, I will remember them. What what was your next one here?
Mine is one that I feel super vindicated on,
Oh, okay.
but Ba Sing Se.
In standard,
Yeah.
really?
Dude, this card gets all kinds of love. What are you talking about?
In standard, I've never played against this card in standard.
How have you never played it? Are you serious?
I play arena. I play arena every day. I have never played against this card. Like,
Are
not
you
once.
are you for real just like messing with me? Or are you dead
No,
serious?
no. I play best of one for what it's worth. I play mostly best of one standard on arena every single day. This card has never been resolved. Like
Are you serious?
I think maybe one time on stream somebody like reanimated it or something, and then it didn't do anything.
Dude, that's funny. That's so unbelievable to me. I thought you were just messing with me for a second.
No, literally, I do not see this card. People talk about it in Commander. This is weird. This has the distinction of being one of the only cards ever that was on my overrated list and your underrated list.
Yeah.
Interestingly. And we just recorded the overrated list, and I thought that we had agreed this card wasn't doing much in standard. So now I'm a little taken aback.
No. This card definitely is doing stuff.
Like, what is it doing in standard?
A lot of it's even in some decks that just got played last weekend. Like, why would you
like in a spotlight series or something?
Yes. Like this
MTG
card is legit.
deck lists.
Yeah, let me go it now. Now I got to go do it. People are gonna like watch this live while I go look up tournament. I think they're on Melee has the list.
People are gonna be mad. People are gonna be like, I can't believe you stopping to do stuff like this.
Hey, whatever, man. Hey, it's part of the thing. Like
it is.
You can't just sit here and say like, oh, we pre-recorded and then like gave you just like our perfect cleansed takes or whatever. Like, no, this is this thing that happens.
So all right. I'm looking at Standard Challenge 64.
Okay, I'm gonna go in here to the Spotlight series from last weekend.
There were 66 players at yesterday's event, yesterday's Standard Challenge. And I have passed through the top 8 and I do not see this card.
Yeah, definitely. Because I definitely even saw it in play in a matchup where they won against the control deck because they were playing it.
Okay, I've encountered the card. It is in Il Nano's 5th place Badger Mole Cub list. It's like a Badger Mole Ouroboros list with an Aboran Oculus. And there is one copy of Ba Sing Se in the sideboard.
This is from the top 8 from the Spotlight series. Mono green landfall playing 4 Ba Sing Se. From Eli Swap.
We're talking about different cards. Talking about different cards.
Oh,
I think you're talking about the walls of Ba Sing Se.
No, I'm talking about the land Ba Sing Se.
Okay, sorry. The land has been incredible. The land shows up literally everywhere. You said Ba Sing Se, and I was like, wait a minute. For some reason, I am so sorry anybody watching this video. I hear Ba Sing Se and I immediately think walls. It's the land. The land is insane. The land is very good. Victory lap.
I was so confused. I'm like, dude, even the Simic Ouroboros decks are playing like one ofs because it's like whatever. Some are playing 4. I'm like, how have you not seen this card play?
Okay, yeah, I have seen Ba Sing Se like many times. Yes.
Okay, at least now you understand my confusion because I was literally like, how have you never seen this card?
That was very likely the dumbest miscommunication in the history of us hanging out talking. So like, I'm sorry. I'm sorry for anybody viewing this because that's going to make me look really dumb. But yeah, the walls, no, the land, phenomenal magic.
I was literally I'm like, I don't know how you've never played against this card on Arena. Like, I'm so confused.
Yeah. This isn't everything with green in it. Yeah.
Well, at least now you understand why I was confused. Okay. Yeah. So for those of you who wonder why we had confusion, never seen Ba Sing Se somehow, it's a land that enters untapped if you have a basic. If not, it's tapped. You can tap it for a green mana, or you can pay 2 and a green, and you earthbend a land for 2, activate it as a sorcery. This card, I think for me, and I think at the time, I'd have to go back and watch the video, but I think I put it on the list because it wasn't one of the more hyped of the lands in the sets. I think people were like, oh, this will be playable, but they were bigger on the red land, producing the extra mana, and they were bigger on the white land, putting all the counters on things. Those
which has
both,
seen a lot of play. The white land has been all right too.
yeah,
But of all of them, I actually think Boss the green one has seen like the most play. So
exactly. And that's
yeah.
why it made my underrated list. As I predicted, it would be the most played of the new lands, and it most definitely is.
Yep.
And
Yep.
rightfully so, right? It's good against the control decks, right? Giving you just a constant body. It's good. I've used it just to produce a blocker every turn, and when in a
Yep.
weird tight situation, right? You can just make a land bigger if you just need to have a bigger creature so you don't overcommit, right? That's a thing you can do. And it's very easy to play. The opportunity cost is pretty low because it's a tap land half the time, but that's
I was gonna say
fine.
most of the time it's not even a tap land. It's
Yeah, and a bunch of times it's
so
just not.
good.
So yeah, it checks all the right boxes. Ended up being great. So yeah, definitely one I was glad. And surprisingly, the card's still pretty affordable.
Yeah,
I
what's it
think
at right now?
like
Like a buck?
$5.
I'm surprised it's that much, honestly. I
Yeah,
thought
for
last
as
time I
much as
looked
it
at it, I
gets
feel like it was
played though,
cheaper.
5 is
Yeah.
a fine price for that.
Yeah, and for what it's worth, it's not just standard driving the price. I think a lot of commander players. I've been seeing this on EDA Trek and Mana Base is a good bit. So card sees a good amount of play in like both main Magic the Gathering formats. So $5 is kind of a steal for a card that's doing that.
I want to give people
So
a cheat code. If you play a commander like Black Panther that cares about having counters on lands that you can move and draw cards, this literally just puts counters on a land
counters
every
on
turn.
lands.
So if you
Yep.
have nothing else to do, you're like, oh, I'll put a couple of counters, and then during your end step, I'll pay the other 3 to move it, and I'll get to draw a card,
Yeah, good
right?
tip. I mean, this
And
probably works in go ahead.
you have other cards that when you put counters on them probably trigger from something, so you're getting a lot of value just from like constantly charging a land with
Yep.
this card. It's really
There's a
good.
ton of artifacts that say like whenever you put one or more +1/+1 counters on a creature, do a thing. And like this kind of does that, it at
Mhm.
least it synergizes with those. I wouldn't be surprised if this was like the best land you could play in that Titus precon from Final Fantasy.
Oh.
The Blitzball, like +1/+1
Mm.
counters proliferate deck. This is probably an absolutely insane land in that deck. So, easy upgrade there. It just goes everywhere. There's no reason not to play this. In some ways, it's better than a creature land because like people just kill a creature land,
Yeah.
but if they kill the land you've animated, just make another one. Who cares? It's not a big deal. So yeah, this was a great pick. You should get in the Maserati to take that
Yep. And it's
victory
not
lap.
the walls of Bossing, as we
Yeah,
clarified.
it is the land. Yeah. So good. Sorry.
All right.
Good
Well,
call
what
on
was your
that.
number 3? This will probably have less confusion.
Yeah, this one probably, if I'd have said there are multiple Zuko cards in the set I could have pointed out and been right about. Instead, I said Zuko Conflicted, the 2-mana one. So this one presents a variety of options every turn, right? You can draw a card, you can make him larger. There's some cool stuff you can do with this guy at a pretty efficient rate. However, there just hasn't really been a Rakdos aggro deck, and even if there is a Rakdos aggro deck, might not be includable. If you're building Rakdos right now, you're probably playing lizards. This isn't a lizard, so it doesn't go in the deck. It's not really like conducive, right? There's just no deck this actually goes in right this second. Although I still think there's a chance this card does something as a value creature before it exits standard. It sure hasn't yet, but I still think it's a good guy. Sometimes I will accept like, oh, this card's bad. I should have known it was bad. This guy, I still think there's a chance. I'm holding on to it. I think there's a chance this guy's okay.
Yeah, I goofed around with this a little bit and it was all right. It wasn't bad. I didn't feel like I had to work too hard or be concerned about my opponent getting control of it. It was just kind of okay. I've had it played against me twice and it didn't feel too impressive. So just like I get where you were coming from putting this on the list, right? It's a 2-mana 2/3, has a bunch of upside. There's a lot of ways to negate the downside. Feels like it should check the boxes,
Yeah.
right? It just doesn't. And again, I think to your point, kind of like we were saying about Ty Lee, is that sometimes the decks or the metagame just doesn't exist for a card to do the thing it wants to do,
Yeah.
right? This isn't going, there's no like Mardu Humans deck that needs this card right now,
Yeah.
right? But if
Not
it
really.
did,
No.
it'd be a quality 2-mana card for that type of deck.
Absolutely. But yeah, I think you're right too. It's just victim to not having the deck right now. So, I will say too, I think one of the biggest problems with this is that I don't think it really does much the turn it comes into play. And to be a 2-drop playable in standard right now, you have to be Deep Cavern Bat or Fear of Missing Out or, any Badger Mole Cub. All of these things do something the turn they come into play. And I think it's kind of a big deal.
Sort of, but I
Um,
mean, I will be fair and say, if you played this on 2 and then your opponent plays a Badger Mole on 2, and then the next turn you either get a mana or draw a card or whatever, and you're attacking, they're not blocking, so you're getting in for 2 and getting value and advancing your turn. So it's not like it's terrible.
yeah, that line seems okay in terms of like what you're getting out of it, but your opponent dropped Badger Mole Cub.
Sure, exactly.
Like,
Yeah,
your
yeah.
opponent dropped a card 6 times better than this easily. So, you know, you probably want to kill their cub. Like if you don't kill their cub, I promise their next turn will be
But
way
you
more
do still have
dangerous than
extra
yours.
mana to do it, right? You could try to draw
Yeah,
into your removal spell, right?
that's
And that's
true.
why I get how you put it on the list, right? It has upside, just the decks that want it just didn't materialize.
Yeah, what I wanted this to be, I think, was kind of a spirited companion with higher power toughness.
Mm,
Like the 2 mana dog that draws a card when it comes into play. It's a
yeah,
1/1.
yeah.
People played that card in standard in like value decks. This is a 2 mana 2/3 that draws a card, but it doesn't do it when it comes in. I just think we all need to remember that sometimes cards needs to have you can't wait to untap. Even with a 2-drop, you can't wait to untap some of the time. So, and if you are, it needs to be an extremely good like Badger Mole is a good example. You have to untap with Badger Mole on the table, but if you do, you just win the game. And like Zuko doesn't
Oh,
do that.
yeah, yeah.
So, you know. But that said, if I'd have picked, funny enough, if I'd have picked Zuko's Conviction, the instant speed raise dead or reanimate a guy to the table if you kick it, that has seen some play in standard. That is shown up in the Superior Spider-Man, Kyvera Mindbitten,
Mm.
Arden reanimator decks. And what's also funny is that I chose Zuko conflicted. Zuko's Conviction is literally the exact opposite as far as naming conventions. One is conviction, one is confliction, and one is conviction. So I should have been more convicted and chosen Zuko's Conviction. But instead I was conflicted and chose the wrong Zuko. So all that considered though.
Fair.
What was your next choice? Which we had, I believe this was the longest conversation we had in the video.
This might have been the card we had the longest conversation about in this entire series.
Yeah, it could be. We talked for a good bit about this.
And honestly, even when there were several comments in there about it because like people felt
Yep.
kind of way about it.
This was the most commented on card in this video.
Yeah, but Beifong's Bounty Hunters, 2 black green for a 4/4 human mercenary. When a non-land creature you control dies, you earthbend X, where X is that creature's power. Yeah, dude, this ended up being a small bit of a thing.
But let me put it this way. Let me defend my position.
Sure, sure.
This ended up being a small bit of a thing for like a week and a half. It's gone now. This deck doesn't exist anymore. The like blood-gassed Beifong's Bounty Hunter infinite combo thing. Yeah, I don't. First of all, I don't know that I ever played against it, but I did see it on like MTGO. I like in the rankings because I check MTGO every morning. So I did see this deck a couple of times in like league and maybe in one challenge, and then it quickly exited standard, never to be seen again. I don't know that this deck is played now. So I will say, yes, it was in a deck. Was it in like a real deck that like, we just had the world champions. Anybody register this deck at the world championship? No. So I don't, I'm going to use this word. I'm conflicted because I do think this card showed up from time to time in a deck, but I think that deck was like C- tier and has now fallen off. So
Yeah, but if the goals we're talking about underappreciated cards,
yeah,
under cards nobody's looking at thinking are going to do anything, and it still shows up as a sideboard card against some control matchups and stuff. I still see that in some of the mid-range Golgari decks, which makes sense because if they wrath the board, you still get like 3 creatures. You're just turning your lands into creatures, like kind of tracks. So it doesn't surprise me that that's a thing. But yeah, it did about what we expected. Again, we didn't think it was going to be gangbusters by any stretch.
yeah, no, yeah.
I mean, we knew that because again, part of the argument, even when I put it on there, was there are a lot of 4 mana things you're going to consider playing, right? So the deck either has to take advantage of it or you're bringing it in for situations, right?
Yeah, like at this point in standard, the 4-drop is Ouroboros, and it's green. So like if you're in a green deck, are you going to play Ouroboros?
Well,
Are you going to play this?
but you still have the 4/4 that you has lifelink, and then if you have something leave the battlefield, make it 2/2, whatever that thing. Elegy
Oh
Acolyte,
yeah, that guy.
right?
Yeah.
So like that's still there for some versions as well. You might be playing the 2/4 demon of Aklazat, right? Like that's a thing. So it sort of just depends on what you're doing, what that 4 slot looks like. And that was the biggest issue of you have to play this with intention, right?
Yeah.
Either
The only deck this goes in is that like blood gas combo deck. Like that's the deck it's for. Um, and like you said, it could function as a decent sideboard card. I
yeah, and
think I
that's
have
been
shown it
its
up in that
life
capacity.
for the
Yeah.
most part, has been its sideboard capacity. So like, hey, I want something in sweepers so I can just keep fighting or whatever. And you force your opponent in a situation of, okay, well now I have to use a removal to kill this first, then try to get the sweeper off, or else I'm not getting any advantage, right?
And it makes sense sequentially against like Jeskai Control and Azorius and stuff. Like if you're a Badger Mole Cub deck, yeah, you'd side this in and you'd play this on turn 4 instead of Ouroboros to kind of
Exactly.
guard against the Day of Judgment or whatever, right? It makes perfect sense.
But
Um,
that's kind of what it is, right? It's
yeah,
and I agree with you. It's not going to be something that you're building around necessarily. It's you can have it be part of a thing, but you're probably not building around this as the main thing. But I will say the times it's set across the table from me, gosh, I hate facing this card.
if I admit one thing during this entry, it'll be that I have played against the card, maybe not the deck, but I played against the card a couple of times. I think at least once on stream. And I will say, often if people resolve the card, I'm like, oh crap,
Well, because it makes
like
combat
immediately.
tough. Like, because then they're just like, even if they chump block with something, it's like you didn't even get rid of anything on the battlefield.
Not really. No, they still
Yeah,
get their land. It's just. I will say, I don't. This. I can't be completely vindicated calling this card bad, but I think the card did exactly what a lot of people thought it was going to do. Like before we called it underrated. Like I feel like this card was just like rated correctly. You know what I mean? Like
that's
some people
fair.
were like, "Oh, it'll be fine." Um, but ultimately, yeah, I will say I think that I kind of went hard in the paint calling the card like bad, and it is not. So I was wrong about that
I
for
think you
sure.
said this card was trash.
I may have. Those may have been the words. And I will say I would retrieve this out of a garbage can if I found it in a garbage can. I'd be, oh hey guys, play you somewhere. So
Now, I
if I
will
said it was trash, I was wrong.
I will say this for the card because, like we've been saying, like the heart of the Golgari decks has gone a bit of a different direction. So you can pick these up for like 50 cents to a buck if you do want to play it or want a quality sideboard card. Like this is probably the time I would scoop these up because if it does end up catching onto a deck in the future, this is the bottom of the price barrel right
Yeah,
now.
exactly. It won't be less than 50 cents like ever.
Yeah.
So like 5 years from now, it'll probably be just because it's from the Avatar set and the Avatar set's out of print 5 years from now, it'll probably be worth more than that. So I don't know. Give it a shot.
Yep. Yep.
It's a fun card. You can do a lot with the card. I'll say that. Especially if you're a commander player, just pick it up, dude. It's pretty fine, I
Yeah,
guess.
for sure. For sure.
Next is one that interestingly, I feel like this has seen about as much play and about as many decks for about as much time as Beifong's Bounty Hunters. But my next pick was Phoenix Fleet Airship. And if you're taking a kind of a victory lap on Beifong's Bounty Hunters, I guess I'll take the exact same kind of victory lap. I'm not getting in a nice car. I'm going to get in a 94 Civic
Yeah,
to take my
you
victory
get
lap.
at least in like a 2000 Corolla.
Okay, yeah, I'll tell you, it's
Yeah,
nice. It's got power options.
yeah.
I think that Airship has shown up a couple of times. It's become especially like a pet card in Commander. It has held value as well. And you even see it show up from time to time in a standard list, but I'm not going to pretend that it's incredible in standard. But I
Sure.
have seen this in multiple standard lists. I have seen this show up in Demir lists for no apparent reason. It's like a one of next to Enduring Curiosity. I have seen this in mono black lists. I've seen this in Golgari list. It's probably the one that I've seen it in the most. These kind of Golgari mid-range piles where it's like a contingency plan, like an alternate win condition late game if you can get it snowballing. So this has shown up a couple of places, but I don't think it's ever really made like the big time necessarily. But it has definitely done better than I even thought it would do when I called it underrated. Really surprised by the amount of people enjoying this card after the set came out. Let me just put it that way. Like I think it's like Krim's favorite card from the set. I've seen Krim play this card like 3 times. So, it's garnering some sort of following at the very least.
Yeah, I think it's one of those cases where the card is mostly fine, right? Like it's playable. I think the issue is how often were you going to get to Magic Christmas Land and get the 8 airships,
Right.
right?
And that's not what it's about. I think what it's about is getting like 2 or 3 and just winning with those guys.
Yeah, and a lot of times in the decks I've played it, it's just like, okay, well, I'll attack for 8, and the next turn I'll attack for 8, and then the game's over,
That's it.
And
Right.
that's
You just
kind
win.
of it. I'm not really needing the full 8 airships. Or sometimes, especially in Commander, you can have it just be a thing that's a constant source of artifacts to sacrifice,
Yep.
right? So you can just like, all right, I'm gonna make 2 extra of these every turn, and I can sacrifice them to, or I have
Sacrifice
something
them,
that
or
says I have to sacrifice an artifact every turn, or whatever.
like, artifact ETB trigger, like, oh, an artifact came into play, do this, and it's really good with those. So
Yeah, so
yeah,
it definitely still has some spots to be played for sure. I think a lot of people wrote it off saying like, "Well, if I can't get to Magic Christmas Land, it's just not gonna be a thing." You
yeah.
know? Matter of fact, I don't know if I even mentioned it at the time, but it's kind of like the Embercleave argument, right? For
Hmm.
people who don't know about Embercleave, it was one of those artifacts that was able
Good
to do
for
a
you.
stupid amount of damage really quickly, but it got its cost reduced based on, like, the power of creatures or something or whatever, right? And people are always like, "Well, you're never gonna get to play this for 2 mana, so how good is it?" Whatever. I'm like, "I don't know. What if I play it for 3 or 4 sometimes?
Right.
It's still gonna be
Thank
good,
you.
right?"
Yes. Yeah.
And it's
People think you have to play a card for like literally free for it to be good. And it's
well,
like,
for you have
no.
to play it in its maximum mode, right? Well, if I don't get max mode, what does it matter? And this is one of those ones where I don't have to hit max mode, and I can still win before max mode even happens. So, I
Yeah,
think
well
that's
before. Oh.
yeah, and I think that's what led to people going like, "Well, you're never gonna get to the 8 airship, so who cares?" Right? But it's like, "All right, but if I get to 4, that's still pretty damn good."
Yeah, I mean, like you just said, if I get 2 4/4 flyers, just two, just one copy of this, that seems pretty formidable. And people say like, oh, it dies to removal. And like, yeah, this dies to removal like the first turn it's in play, and then it doesn't. Like you have 2 copies and then 3 copies. Like if this doesn't die to removal like literally immediately, you will get extra copies of it and finish them like that. And I'm pretty sure if I remember correctly, it accrues for like hella cheap.
For
So
one,
like, yeah, that's what I thought. I couldn't remember if right off the top of my head if it was one or two. But crewing for one, dude, like what else do you want? This card's insane. Like still, this is another one of those where I think this card was obviously good. And even though like it hasn't shocked the world or anything, it has done better than people considered. And I don't know why people couldn't see it to begin with. And I think you're right. I think people get too caught up in the weeds of like, oh, you're never going to get all 8, but it's just like you don't need to do that.
but I think that's the argument on too many cards of if I don't get Magic Christmas Land, is it any good?
And a lot of cards
Right?
aren't. Yeah.
Yeah. But that's the
Yeah.
thing. Some are still fine and serviceable, even if you don't get to Magic Christmas Land.
It's like Badger Mole Cub. A lot of people were saying like, oh, you can make 8 mana on turn 3 if it's Magic Christmas Land. It's like, it turns out that 6 and 7 mana on turn 3 is just good enough.
You
It
don't even
doesn't
need
matter.
that.
It's
Just
fine.
having 4 mana on turn 3 and then being able to go off after that is enough.
Yeah.
Or 5 mana, I should say.
I was gonna say 5 mana. Yeah, like if
Yeah.
you go Lawn War Elves into Badger Mole Cub and don't drop a land, you still have 5 mana on turn 3. Like that's enough.
Yeah.
That's enough to play Magic with. It turns out you don't have to do like the craziest thing in order to do something crazy. You know, that's good value. That's good advice for life, by the way.
Well, I just think when we're talking about evaluating Magic cards, sometimes you have to look at the practical use more than the optimal maximum use, actually,
The
I should say.
maximum, right, right.
Yeah.
The
Because
best possible use case.
well, because I think, again, that's how easy we get caught up on cards where we dismiss stuff, and you look back and go, "Man, this feels like it should have been kinda obvious. How'd we miss this?" And it's just because we were thinking about, "Well, we gotta get way up here," but realistically, even if we're here, that's still pretty good most of the time,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah, I remember people making those evaluations about Corey Steel Cutter.
Yeah.
Basically, oh, it doesn't do enough, and all that. Or to really make it sing, you gotta like do something on your turn, your opponent's turn, your turn, your opponent's turn, play multiple spells and blah blah blah. Or whatever the arguments were at this point. But like Corey Steel, it turns out just like make a guy every turn. That's good enough. It's just good enough to do that. I think that we do think, and it's easy to think nowadays that Magic is so power crept and overpowered that you have to be like insane to be a playable card. But that's not always necessarily true. You just have to do the right thing.
I would say
Um,
even more importantly is if you can get just mid value from a card by your deck just doing magic,
like
right?
what it's
Just
gonna
like,
do
yeah,
anyway.
if
Yeah.
your deck just gets to play magic but gets extra value out of stuff, great. Those cards are probably solid, right? And that's kind of like what we're talking about with the airship. We're talking
With
about
the
with
airship.
Corey Still Color,
Yeah.
with Embercleave. Like your deck's still
Timbercleave.
just doing the thing, and then you
Yeah.
draw this card,
It's
right?
like Ouroboros is a good example. Sheldred the Apocalypse is a
Yeah.
good example. It's like these are all cards that either aid or punish, like just the playing of magic. And those are
Yep.
typically very good. And yeah, I think Airship kind of does follow into that category.
And again, I don't think Airship's gonna break the bank. And maybe later in the year there's some things in either of the Universe Beyond sets that care about artifacts or something. Then yeah, probably it could make a big splash. But outside of that, it's just going to be a quality card that's fun to build around. It's going to be annoying across the table from you. But yeah, just a reasonable card and still going to be played a lot in Commander.
Yeah, Magic used to be full of cards like that.
Yeah.
It's like it's not bannably broken and it's not horribly terrible. It's just it's a fine card. I remember that. Those are good cards. Anyway, what was your next? Speaking of large flyers, what was your next pick?
Yeah, mine was Ran and Shaw. And sadly, this is one where started out looking promising, and
Yeah,
then the Lessons decks went a whole different direction, and this card was never
yeah.
seen again.
I'm actually mad at the World Championships because the Lessons decks that I ran into on Arena before the World Championships all played a copy or two of this card. And then after the World Championships, I have not seen this card.
Yeah.
I played against this card maybe 5 times before WC. And then after Worlds, everyone's like, well, I guess the card doesn't go in the Lessons deck, so I'll stop doing it.
I mean, to be
It's
fair,
like,
they're just doing more efficient things.
I know, but
Yeah.
even some of the stuff that's more efficient for that deck, people still don't play. Like Eddie Merc Crab was in multiple decks that people registered at World Championships because it wasn't in like the World Championship winning deck. Nobody plays Crab in that deck anymore. Crab is insane, and that Crab is so good in the Lessons deck. Nobody plays Terror in that deck anymore, Tolarian Terror. Nobody plays Wan Shitong in that deck, which was like the best win condition.
Sure,
And
but
nobody
the
plays
decks are
Ran and Shaw, and Ran and Shaw was so good in that deck. It was really good.
But I will say, there's always going to be deck evolution, right? And they're
That's true.
shifting to respond to the metagame that exists and whatnot. And I get it, especially if you're like, okay, well now some number of Badger Mole or Bora decks are going to be more popular. You don't want to be wasting time with like Eddie Merc Crab,
Yeah,
right? You
that's
just
fair.
don't have time,
Yeah.
right? So you'd rather just be a bounce spell or a removal spell or something or whatever. So I kind of get it. But I'm with you. It is a bit sad because Rain and Shaw is just a cool value card. For 5 mana,
Mhm.
you get a 4/4 that copies itself if you have at least 3 Lessons in the yard. It has fire bending. It can pump all your dragons, which usually it was the only dragon in those decks. But it does pump both dragons for 4 mana. But for whatever reason, like I said, it started out like, oh, this card might be a little bit of a thing. And then we were past like week 3 or so. And then it was just like, okay, well, I've seen the card twice since. Just went away. And I get it. You try it when it's a new thing in the set, just one that we missed on. And the sad thing is, like, if you want this card, there's versions of this you can get for like a quarter.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, big dragons aren't what they used to be, I guess.
Well, the argument is that's the other part of it, right? If you're not playing Lessons, the other dragons are still really good.
Just much better. Right, exactly.
Right? We have
It synergizes with Lessons and doesn't go in the Lessons deck, so it's just kind of unplayable,
Yeah, that's the problem. If you're not playing Lessons, it's just like, all right, it fire bends and I could pump my dragons, but that's just kind of okay. Whereas
Yep.
I could play Dragonhawk that just does damage and gets me cards. I could
play Terror of the Peaks.
Yeah, Terror of the Peaks that deals damage. You could
Like
play
Bonehorde Dracosaur.
Dracosaur is great,
I
right?
love Dracosaur.
Or your 4 mana dragons that can just like cause your opponent mana troubles or whatever, right?
That guy's awesome.
Yeah, this just
That guy,
doesn't.
Magmatic Hellkite, whatever the dude that blows up a land and they go get another. That guy's awesome. Love that dude.
This, if you're not playing Lessons, is oftentimes just going to be worse than those other things. The only spot it may not be is if you were playing a truly dragon themed deck, which again, Changelings, Lorwyn, whatever. But if you're playing just a dragon themed deck, then having a thing that could pump all your creatures for just 4 mana, reasonable. But in general, you're probably playing the other 5 mana dragons.
Yeah. I just like you said, like, we're content creators. Like if we build a dragons deck, it's going in. Apart from that, there's probably no reason to play it,
Yeah.
I will say though that this is one of those that when you first put it on your overrated list, or your underrated list, like the first week or two of the format before we got to World Championships, I was ready to give you a big pat on the back for this. I played against it on Arena 3-4 times, and every time they played it, they got the other copy. And every time that happened, I was like, oh my God, there's 2 of these guys now. Like, you know what I mean? Like, how do I beat that? We were just talking about with Dire Fleet or Phoenix Fleet Airship. It dies to removal, but after one turn, there will be more than one copy. So it doesn't actually die to removal. This feels the same way. Like you could say it dies to removal, but not if you get 2 of them at the same time. You know what I mean? So I feel like this had a chance to be better. And the way the professional, the deck list from the pro scene kind of trickled down onto Arena and MTGO kind of affected this card's, perceived playability. I'll say.
Fair.
And I think it could have had a better run. I think it could have had a better run, man.
Yeah, it's just a tough one, man. Tough one.
It is.
All right, that's getting us down
Uh,
to what our number one underrated cards here.
I think that's correct. Yeah.
All right, so what you
You
got?
definitely. I co-signed on your number one, so I get to take credit with you. But as far as my number one, this is a card that has shown up in Commander from time to time. But you can get for 25 cents right now. This is called Avatar Destiny, and I'm going to reread the card because let me put it this way: it's never a good sign when we feel the need to reread a card that we called underrated. That probably means it didn't do anything. That is the case for Avatar Destiny, a 4-mana green aura that enchants a creature. The creature gets +1/+1 for each creature card in your yard and is an avatar in addition to its other types. When your creature dies that has this on it, mill cards equal to its power, return this card to its owner's hand, and up to one creature card milled this way to the battlefield under your control. So that's every time I read this, I'm like, dude, that's sick. It's so good. For what it's worth, best thing I can say about this is that it is currently following the Commander Sleeper trajectory. It has not gone up in price at all, but I have now seen this on 3 different Twitter threads and 1 Reddit thread. People saying you should be playing this card in Commander, which means that within 6 months, everyone will say it was always a good Commander card. Right. But for what it's worth, this card sees no play. It's a 4-mana aura. I knew that. But I still wanted to take a chance on it because I think that, getting effectively a free creature when your guy dies, making your dude huge, conducive to self-mill decks. I thought there were a few things here that lined up, but, there weren't. And I own that. Just Avatar Destiny probably should have been more my number 5 than my number 1. But I thought that this one had maybe the highest ceiling. Lowest floor, but highest ceiling too. So that said, we're still on the floor. We are sleeping on the floor with this card. We're in the basement. I don't really think we're doing anything with it at all.
I mean, here's the thing. I think for me, the reason I ended up not building with it is there was a big stretch where Ultima was still the removal of choice.
Yeah.
And Ultima just ends the turn. So you don't get the value when this dies. Right? Kind of the same thing that happens with your lands. Like when I think my opponent's going to play Ultima and I have a bossing say, I just put counters on the same land because I don't want to lose my lands, right? But now that that's not the case, maybe there's a world where this is a thing, right? Like could just, spitballing. Could the like mono green landfall lists that are already playing like Ice Till Explorer, putting stuff in the graveyard, take advantage of this? Right?
I like it. I will say, I don't think that deck wants to play. Like, I think that deck begrudgingly plays Ice Till already. Like, it doesn't want to play 4-drops, but it like has to play Ice Till. So I don't know.
Sure. Like, the only reason I would play it is if, again, I wanted a defensive card against those sweepers or whatever, right? That happen to not be Ultimate, because that's the world we're in now. Like, that's probably the only way I would play this right now. I don't think, like, it's weird. It has the right words, but I just don't think it has the right scenarios.
It's like the deck that I would probably want to play this in the most is the Season of Loss Ice Till deck. The sort of Soul Tie, sometimes green black, wants to fill its deck or its graveyard with creatures. I think this could be okay in that, but again, we reach the problem of like opportunity costs. You only have really 35, 36 slots in the deck. Are there 35, 36 better cards to play than this? Yeah, I think there probably are. So, ultimately, I'm not sure where it will ever end up, but I have heard people buzzing about it in Commander lately, in like mono green lists and stuff, self-mill lists in Commander. It may be there, but as it stands, I have come around to the feeling that we will never ever see this card in Standard, and that's probably fine.
I in theory, I still like it though, because there's worlds that aren't even Magic Christmas Land where like your opponent sweeps your board, you get something back like a Surok that happens to have trample already. And then you put this on it, and you're like, okay, well, I have this like 8 power, 9 power Surok that's just going to keep attacking or whatever, right?
Right.
So
and that's
real value. I mean, and that's not even
that's
crazy.
Like a normal. That's a normal use case. Yeah, that's not like Disneyland or anything. That's kind of, if I remember correctly, one of my lines with this card was just like, okay, sweeper protection, right? Like if your guy dies and he's 4 power, well, now I get a 4 power or 4-drop guy like back from my yard or back, from the top. And I can throw this on him. And who knows how many creatures are in my yard. So, maybe my 3/3 becomes a 10/10. I've had plenty of like 17/17 Lurgoy style creatures in my life. And this basically just turns any creature into a Lurgoyf. And I still think that's like a Lurgoyf with a death trigger. Like, I still think it's okay, but 4 mana aura, you're asking to get blown out. I don't know if anybody really wants to be doing it. I guess I'll say that.
Yeah,
So,
that's a tough thing. Right? It's hard to play auras that cost more than 2 in a lot of cases, unless you're getting a lot of immediate value. Maybe every once in a while you could get away with something like the 3 mana one that gives you like +2/+2 lifelink trample, right? Something like that.
oh yeah, yeah.
You know, but it's pretty difficult. There's a reason you don't see a lot of auras that cost more than 1 or 2 mana. And then again, kind of like we were talking about with like Beifong's bounty hunters, like the 4 mana slot stuff in a lot of decks,
Yeah,
right?
it is.
There's a lot of good stuff. You're playing at 3, 4, 5 mana these days, so
Yeah,
you
and
got to earn your keep. Mhm.
they're all like actual threats, like look, this has the literal exact same casting cost as Ouroboros.
Yeah,
I dare you to tell me which one's better. You know what I mean?
but not just
Like,
overboard, like we're saying,
so,
like Ice Till Explorers in that space. You know, there's some other miscellaneous 4/4s that have value that you play from time to time. Like maybe this is a thing, maybe it's not, but yeah, even if I played it, it's a real thing that you're probably only playing one of, as your fun of, maybe two, and hope it takes care of the job.
yeah, you're not building your whole deck around it or anything. I think that hurts it too. Is that it doesn't quite have the value to want to build it from the top down. It's just like a thing you might put a one of in. So yeah, yeah. I took a shot on this one. Took a swing. You got to do that sometimes. I don't regret it. I regret
Sure,
nothing. And I imagine you don't regret your number one pick either.
not even a little bit. We're talking about Aang at the Crossroads.
Ow!
This is the
Big hit.
5 mana, so 2 green, white, blue, 3/3 flyer that happens to be a human avatar ally like the other Aangs. But when it enters, you look at the top 5 cards of your library. You can put one of the cards with mana value 4 or less from among them on the battlefield. Put the rest on the bottom of your library. And then when another creature you control leaves the battlefield, you get to transform Aang at the beginning of the next upkeep. That happens to be a 4/4 that lands you control have vigilance. And at the beginning of combat on your turn, you get to Earthbend too. Yeah, this card was just good. I
Yeah,
mean,
it's still
not a
good.
lot to say about it. It was just good.
Showed
You
up in Bant Appa, 5 color allies, and a couple of other decks for that matter.
yeah,
Wild card. I remember kind of co-signing completely with you on this one. Like, oh yeah, this card's amazing. Like, I don't see why nobody else sees it. Just this ETB trigger is good enough. I think though, what a lot of us kind of discounted, myself included on this card, is that the 4/4 flyer or whatever it is that gives you an earthbend every turn, the flip
yeah.
version of him is actually also really good. I think a lot of us were just like, nah, I'm not too impressed by that. I guess it's fine. But actually, that's like attrition. It's a creature engine basically every single turn. And he flies like he can win the game by himself. Obviously, the ETB trigger is the good part of the card, but I think a lot of people like underestimated how easy it is to flip this. First of all, and second of all, how good it is once it's flipped. I think people look at this as like a 5 mana 3/3. This is actually a 5 mana 4/4 flyer with an ETB trigger that also puts in like an Earthbent land every turn. Like this guy is
I
insane. He's
mean,
still insane.
even if you never flip it though, you're paying 5 mana for a 3/3 flyer and often at least 3 power plus something, right?
Right.
Whatever that
You're getting
other
more
thing is.
than 5 mana value out of the card, like every time.
Yeah, and I think it was a lot of times thought of in the case of allies, but even that allows you to trigger allies multiple times, get a thing that pumps your team, blah 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 blah, right? It does like so much stuff. And then it's like, oh, well, I could play one or two of these in my combo deck. So now I could do the Bant airbending, whatever, and I could just go find the piece I'm missing. So that's pretty
It
cool.
is it's kneecapping there, man. Like even in the decks that aren't the Appa decks, if they Aang at the Crossroads and find that like 3 mana blue white Aang off of the Aang at the Crossroads, like they usually, they airbend one of your guys and they just got two guys. And like at any point in the game, that is a really strong line. And at any point, if you kill one of their dudes, they just have a 4/4 about to just ready to stomp in on you. Like if you want to kill their 1/1 like so badly, if you want to kill their X2 with a burst lightning, like you're making yourself deal with a 4/4 flyer. I still think that's like really good, but
Yeah, and I think the reason this even made my list was the other Aang, the 4 color one, was the one that everybody was hyped on trying to play. It's a 4/4, so people were looking at it, I think, as just being more impactful. While this one was kind of just going along at like $4 or $5, whatever it was at the
yeah.
time.
Yeah,
And
I want to say this was the
Mhm.
cheapest Aang in the set.
It still
Um,
is, I think. It's only like,
yeah, I think it may be.
well, there's a cheap version you can get for like $2, I think. So it's like, I don't hate that, right? If you just need this card and want to
Nope.
play it, great. Now's a great time to pick this card up. I mean,
I actually think this would be a really cute, like, Bant commander. Not the best ever, but, like, fun Bant commander at the very least. Um, yeah, a couple bucks is it's a great price for this.
yeah, I don't
It's a
hate
really
this at
good
all. You could
price.
probably find some values in the the $1.50 range. It's probably fine if you really did your hunting. So like, yeah, this card's solid. I think this will be a card that we continue to see played over the years, just because for 5 mana, if your deck doesn't have much else to do and you're in the right colors, it's like just getting another creature of value is great.
Yeah. It to me is like an old school Magic player, and especially the kind of guy that did most of my competitive playing between like 2010 and 2015. This is like the perfect, like quintessential mid range creature. Like this is the mid range threat. Amazing ETB trigger, gets better, synergizes with some of the other stuff, but doesn't have to synergize. It gets more or less any creature that you want of a certain size. So you can put it in the allies decks. You can put it in your Aang theme deck or your Avatar theme deck, whatever it is. You can put it in your Appa combo deck, or you can just put it in any little band mid-range deck, which we see it showing up into. As far as like the kind of cards I like as a dude that spent most of my competitive life between those 5 years, 2010, 2015, this is the pinnacle of that kind of card, a mole drifter type thing, like a good ETB trigger on a kind of understated dude for the cost. Perfect card. And I think that sometimes we point those out and we miss on them. And then sometimes we point those out and they're just like perfect for the format. And I think that's what happened this time.
I think
So
for me,
great card.
one of the best uses has been at post sweeper, right? Because it's just like to get
Yeah.
rid of the board, you play this, and then you get minimum two quality creatures, sometimes more depending on what the other creature is. But this has been more than fine, right? It's like, okay, I got rid of the board. All right, well, here's 6 more power worth of guys, and I
Yep.
either drew a card, made a token, blah, blah, whatever. Right. So yeah, I think this is just solid. And at the price, it's hard to beat one of these. If you want to play with them, I mean, under $2, go have at
Yep.
it, man.
And they're always fun to resolve. This is like one of my favorite cards to resolve in standard. And you're right. Sometimes it puts more than two bodies into play. There's been a lot of times, like maybe more than 6 or 7 times, where you cast Aang and he gets a Badger Mole and the Badger Mole earthbends the land. And, you got like 3 guys off that one guy, off that one
Mm-hmm.
5 mana body. And it always matters, especially after the sweepers. So, yeah, just Aang catches you back up, buries the opponent in value if you don't need to catch up. Flipping it is very easy. I would say this is like the easiest flip condition in all of standard. Just a phenomenal card that I'm really surprised more people didn't necessarily see. But
I
sometimes I
again,
think it is because like it's a boomer card, right? Like, oh, it's just an ETB trigger on a guy. It ain't a big deal. But like, no, it is. It's a big
I
deal.
think it was more because the other Aang existed and everybody was focused on that. It was
That
from the
one.
time
Yeah.
it got previewed, well before the rest of the cards in the set. Everybody's like, "Oh man, the format's gonna be all about bending and doing all these things and getting all this value off this card and flipping to the whatever it is, the 8/8 on the backside or whatever."
Yeah.
Right? And that was just never the thing.
Never happened. Hell,
Mm.
I think that the 3 mana Aang, was higher in price because
Yeah.
people look at that and they're like, oh my God, it's a spell queller. You know what I mean? But I would wager to say that they've seen about the same amount of play. And if anything, Aang at the Crossroads has seen more play because it's in like more decks, like, so
Yeah,
there's
but let's be
that.
honest, the 3 mana Aang is the good one. I
It's
don't think
better,
yeah, I don't think there's any
you
argument.
know.
That is the good Aang, but
I'd say that 3 mana Aang is better in more formats for
yeah,
sure.
definitely. Definitely.
But I enjoy resolving the 5 mana one the most. Like that's such a fun card,
Oh,
man.
for
But
sure.
beyond being fun, it's a powerful card too. And sometimes it's fun because it's powerful. It just does so much for you all at one time. It's crazy card, dude.
Well,
Good call. Easily your best hit in multiple sets, I would say.
yeah, I don't know. I felt like Ba Sing Se being the thing for me in this one, but
It's a big one.
there's
Yeah.
a lot of good cards though in this set. So I think there's a lot of things. Actually, that'll be interesting in the comments. What cards did you see nobody talking about that you were excited about that ended up becoming a
Mm,
thing? Because there's probably
I'd like
some
to
things
know.
out there for people. Or what other things did you think were going to be something that weren't?
Yeah. Yep. Let's play our own hit or myth down there in the comments section because
Yeah, for sure.
it happens in every set. Lore when Eclipse is about to come out. And there's a lot of people online I see being like, this set doesn't look that good. Meanwhile, there's also people who are like, this super overhyped card is not good or even better than people think. And I'm really interested in how that all shapes out. If you haven't seen our overrated and underrated videos for Lore and Eclipse yet, they are out on both of our channels, respectively. And that overrated list you really should see, because there is one mention, one pick of yours that is driving basically the entire comment section to engage with the video. So if you haven't seen that yet, go
I
check it
already
out.
knew. I knew that was going to be a thing when we did it.
Yeah, I bet you know exactly which card it is if you
Yep.
haven't read the comments. But yeah, I would say a good 90% of the 200 comments on the video about that card. But honestly, the more I look at it, the more I think you're probably right.
I mean,
So we
hey,
will be
I knew
sitting
I was
here
going to
again
get
in 2
blown up
months.
for it. We'll see if I'm vindicated or not.
Yep. So,
But
yeah,
speaking
like I said,
of,
if you haven't seen the video yet, go check it out.
y'all should go over to Dev's channel. It's SBMTG. Go look him up over on the YouTube machine. If you haven't clicked all the things that make the dings here, you're taking too long. You already got to this point in the video. Should have done it a while ago. But this is your reminder to do it right now, and I'd really appreciate it. But yeah, otherwise, go watch the other video. I'll try to link it here. Go watch Dev's stuff. It's really good, I promise.
It is. I think it's all right.
But as always, wherever you are watching, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night. Remember, take care of yourselves and family. Remember to be awesome. And most importantly, be awesome to each other.